welcome to our sitting here in Redwood City. And so, if our warm-hearted or warm-hearted emotions for social care, social relationships occurs in the heart, but we live mostly in our head, then we're not going to be much in touch with our hearts. If there's a deep form of intelligence deep in our belly, then if we live mostly in our heads, no matter how smart our heads are, this deeper form of intelligence is not going to be tapped into. If we need a whole body awareness to be able to tap into our capacity for wholeness, capacity for well-being, for the capacity for happiness, because happiness in Buddhism lives more below the neck than above the neck. And so if we live mostly in our heads, we're not going to have access to this profound form of happiness that diffuses and spreads throughout us. Same thing with peace. If we live from the shoulders up, we might definitely experience from time to time a mental tranquility, mental peace, but it's small compared to the kind of peace we can experience when we're fully embodied, and the sense of peace kind of flows or irradiates through our body and seemingly beyond it. So in Buddhist meditation, we're looking to drop below the head, below the neck, not to dismiss or ignore what's above, but to allow it to be in its rightful place as a cooperative member of a whole, of a biological whole, of a psychological, emotional whole, that only is found by having a global awareness, being rooted and centered in the body when we're thinking, when we're planning, when we're engaging with others, to have access to so much more. So that's part of the task of meditation. And so to begin today, to assume a embodied posture. A posture where all of your body is cooperating, participating in the posture. You place your legs and feet in an intentional position. If you're in a chair or on a couch, make sure that your legs and feet are kind of squarely, fully kind of grounding on the floor, on a surface. If you're using a backrest for your back, maybe there can be a small pillow at the lower part of the back or the top of the back that allows somehow to be more erect, or even the chest to kind of come forward a little bit. If you're sitting cross-legged on the floor, maybe there's ever so slight way of pulling in straightening out the spine between the shoulder blades. For decades when I did Zen practice, the custom was to begin every meditation with a gentle swaying back and forth, kind of loosening up a little bit the body, kind of feeling into the body. So as we shorten the sway, the arcs, we're finding our way slowly to a balance point. We're kind of lowering ourselves into the torso. And then gently closing the eyes, or lowering the gaze if you prefer them open. And spend a few moments now doing a tour of your body, letting your attention roam around your body for no other purpose than discovery. How is it? How is this body of yours now? What does it feel like to connect to it in a careful, respectful way? And can you identify some place in your body, your torso, that feels like a grounding place, a place you can feel grounded, or there's feelings of stability, rootedness? A place below the neck, in the torso, the legs. Some people might feel it in the hands or the feet. And maybe from that grounding place, let it be the beginning for the inhale, taking a longer inhale than usual. And exhaling longer than usual. An exhale that is relaxing, letting go. Feeling the body, the torso as you breathe in. And letting go of thoughts and concerns as you exhale. And letting go into your body. Letting your breathing return to normal. And as you inhale, feel the muscles of your face. And as you exhale, soften those muscles. As if the muscles in the face can fall away from the skull as they relax. As you inhale, feeling your shoulders. And then exhale, softening the shoulders. Releasing the shoulders to the gentle pull of gravity. On the inhale, softening the belly as the belly expands fully. And as you exhale, relaxing the belly. And then feel having a global attention of your body. Maybe a global awareness of the hum of the body, or the vibration, or the gentle field of all kinds of small sensations. And in that field of sensations, center yourself on the experience of breathing. Wherever in the torso, breathing is most grounding, settling, maybe peaceful. And as the inhale grows through the torso, there's a spreading awareness through the torso. As you exhale, maybe there's a reverse movement of settling into a single point at the end of the exhale. If you find yourself thinking a lot, relax the thinking muscle. Let go of your thoughts so that you can dip back into the body as if the body is a wonderful lake, broad, wide, soft, that you lower yourself into as you let go of your thoughts. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, to dip into your body again, to find a place, maybe a small place within, that feels like a refuge, feels like a place of calm or peace, inner stability, a sweet tenderness. Find a place within that feels like home or feels comfortable to be close to. And from there, gaze upon the world calmly, peacefully, centered in your body, centered in yourself. Gaze upon the world with kindness, goodwill, that could be understood to be a form of generosity. Being generous with your kind regard, respect for others. Generous in your appreciation. Generous with your smiles and greetings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And may we be deeply connected to the emotions and intelligence in our body, so that we can live with goodwill and friendliness with all that we encounter today. May all beings be happy. So, hello and welcome to this second talk on the social emotions of goodwill, of care, the capacity for a certain kind of social attitudes, motivations, emotions that by which we are inspired to care for others and for this world. And this week I'm suggesting 5 of them, which I gathered partly from the ancient teachings of the Buddha, what he emphasizes. So yesterday it was being ethical, which is understood as a dedication to non-harming. And today the topic is generosity. And generosity is an attitude, is a disposition that we have. It's not the same thing as giving, because we can give without generosity. And we can be generous without having much or anything to give. It's a wonderful, generosity is a wonderful, positive human kind of emotion and attitude. And what's really wonderful about these first two, all of these, but in particular the dedication to ethical life, of non-harming, and to generosity, is clearly interrelational. And that the Buddhist practice traditionally begins with dedication to non-harming, which is dedication to care for the people around us, not to cause harm to anyone, and dedication to generosity, to have a positive disposition to others. So actually, not just avoid doing some things, avoiding doing harm, but doing things which are beneficial for others, to benefit others in the world. And this any kind of attempt to benefit others, the instinct to benefit, is a kind of force of generosity. It's not a force of obligation. Generosity cannot be an obligation, because then it's not generous. Obligation is a tension, is a pressure, is a force, a requirement that we feel we have to live by. And as far as I can understand from the teaching of the Buddha, there's very little or no sense of obligation around being ethical, around being generous, but there is a strong understanding that it's how good it is for us. It comes out of our goodness, and it nourishes and is good for us to live this way. And so to live generously, with generosity in such a way that we personally benefit from it. There's a feeling of pleasure, feeling of joy, well-being, in the feeling of generosity, and in the act of generosity. And this positive feeling tone, the positive sensations, the experience that from which generosity flows, is a check and balance. We can be careful that we're generous in such a way that we either either overtly or maybe privately within ourselves, that we're smiling. Something in our heart smiles to be able to offer and to give. Here, please, take this, have this. I want to support you. I care about you. It just delights me to be able to offer you something. There's no, we give in this way without any sense of being required to. As soon as we're required to, people don't feel quite the fullness of the generosity. Generosity is the giving that's not required, that's beyond what's required, perhaps. And so where does that instinct come from inside, this movement for generosity? And the beginning answer to that, it comes from not being limited to to a rational head that just thinks out rationally what a good idea it was going to be. It calculates why generosity is a good idea and why we get benefits in return or something. But rather, there's a deep inner disposition, deep inner, I like to think of it as an instinct that we have when to care for others, to be generous, to want to do things for people, to support them. And the primary reference point for this is how an adult might care for, or even an older child might lovingly care for a young child, a very young child, maybe a toddler or a baby. Will do a lot for them out of a sense of generosity. Here, let me feed you. Let me make you a nice food. It can be done out of obligation for sure, but it could also be done tenderly and lovingly. And of course we want to support a young child, or maybe a young pet, or maybe a bird that's been injured slightly went into the window of our house and is stunned, and so we protect it before the local cat gets it. And that could be seen partly out of generosity, and or there's a neighbor who is somehow housebound because they're sick. Maybe they broke their leg, and so out of generosity, that it just feels good to be able to go shopping for them, bring food over and deliver it, and the whole thing just feels so good. I remember many years ago, a friend of mine who was staying with us. I was living in San Francisco, and she was going to go back to Europe, where she was from, and was going to take a flight back. And I offered to drive her to the airport. But this woman was quite self-effacing, didn't want anybody to be bothered. She didn't want to bother anyone. And it was very awkward for her to receive anything because she felt she didn't deserve it. But I was, she was a friend. I delighted in her, and I was really happy with the idea of making her trip a little bit easier and driving her to the airport and being with her a little bit more. And it was kind of mostly a wonderful feeling of generosity that I felt. And she said no a few times, and so I then dropped the whole idea. But I felt a little bit sad because it felt so healthy and such a good thing for me to have these warm-hearted feelings of generosity, that I felt that no that she provided curtailed it, kind of prevented it, kind of ended it for me. And I thought, this is sad. It's such a healthy thing coming out of a person. Why couldn't this be allowed to flower in our society, in our world, this way? And so this idea of saying no to people's generosity, when generosity does a lot of good for the person who's generous, and as I hope it does, that's the idea in Buddhism, is that we benefit from being generous. It's a gift for others and a gift for ourselves. And the check and balance in Buddhism is that you want to make sure that the generosity we do makes us feel happy. It gives us pleasure. It brings us delight. And if it doesn't, then maybe it's not generosity. And so this sense of pleasure and sweetness and delight is something which we access by being grounded and centered in our body. The flow of hormones, the flow of wonderful nervous system that kind of comes into harmony and gets awakened with this wonderful generosity. The feedback loop is very much in the body. It's not from the neck up. And so the more we can center ourselves in the body, be here in the body, feel ourselves in the body, the more we can maybe both benefit from generosity and be inspired to be generous. And as I started saying earlier, caring for a young child, maybe it's a neighbor's little kid, and the first kid is happy and playing nicely. So it's not a matter of compassion. It's not a matter of trying to care for them. But here, I've baked some cookies, and here, would you like one? You just know that they would be a delight for the kid to get a cookie, and be a delight for you to offer the cookie and feel the mutual delight and appreciation. So here. And I think this kind of instinct towards why I like to emphasize young children or pets, I think this source of generosity like this is almost a mammalian instinct for being in relationships in a positive way. That if we are deeply at ease, deeply settled, and we feel safe, that can easily flow from us to be generous. When we live our lives anxiously, we live our lives feeling hurt and betrayed and being a victim and being tense and from the head up kind of being on a screen all day, we're kind of shortchanging ourselves for our full capacity of these wonderful caregiving instincts that we have, dispositions. And, um, and we're also shortchanging ourselves from being able to be whole. So much of the tension, the suffering we live under, many times for years, limits us, makes us narrower in a smaller segment of our life, coming alive and present for us. And that's part of the added suffering of suffering, that our life has become kind of narrowed, or we don't have access to the full range of our wonderful mammalian dispositions, and that give rise to generosity, give rise to the idea of non-harming, and so forth. So generosity is a wonderful, really wonderful thing that's celebrated and emphasized in the Theravadan Buddhist tradition, which I'm teaching in, that I love so much. And so generosity can also be, giving can be a practice. Generosity shouldn't be a practice, it's just an instinct. But giving can be a practice to evoke generosity, to explore the limitations and what keeps us back from being generous. So one of the things we do in our tradition is take on practices of giving. And you might try today to find small ways, small acts of giving a smile, giving interest in how people are, maybe offering someone tea, or maybe take them out for lunch, or do a variety of things that are giving, and see if how close generosity is to that act of giving, to that practice of giving. And can you tap into generosity? And as you do things with generosity, can you feel the goodness of that? And finally, if you do have an instinct to be generous, why don't you err on the side of acting on it today rather than holding back? It's such a precious part of human life, our human capacity for generosity. And I like to believe that much of our humanity, our social life, is fueled by generosity, from parents to taking care of us, to all kinds of people that growing up who offer to care, and right up until the day we die. I bet there's tremendous potential for generosity in all directions. And see what you can do to be generous today so that you benefit from that. Thank you.